I love this movie so much. After I watched it, I went to go look up what else you did. I said, I'm going to watch everything this guy's done. And I realized this was a feature debut. And I watched a bunch of your shorts and I saw these Twilight Zone, these two shorts you
Mm,
did based on Twilight Zone episodes. I thought that was really cool because that's sort of a note I picked up in Mother Couch.
right.
What were some of
That's
your other inspirations?
Look, Twilight Zone was very important to me because it was the first time I figured uh, you can bend reality in a really smart and interesting way. And I was introduced to Twilight Zone by my theater teacher when I was 15, I
Oh,
think.
wow.
And we did a bunch of shows on stage. So I was actually playing the guy in Nick of Time, the episode Nick of Time. And I was fascinated by the way our craft, our art can bend reality in a very real way. I mean, Twilight Zone, it's mostly set in reality, right? It's just reactions and occurrences that appear to be magic and heightened realism. And so I brought that in. I brought that into all of my work. My first short film, Vatten, was about a girl falling in love with a underwater ghost in a swimming pool. But the film is really sort of realistically set or whatever. And I think this is the sort of agreement that an audience have with fictional film. I mean, it doesn't matter if you call yourself Jacques Audiard and make really sort of uh, films based on complete reality. It's still fiction, and I think it's still magic, right? So I completely just brought that into Mother Couch because that's the sort of way I depict reality, to be honest. Like, it's interesting to me uh that we can have, some people have problem with surrealism and metaphors or whatever, but we all dream at night and we never question our dreams of being not real when we're in it, right? So we all very attuned and in line with surrealism. um so I don't know, this is stories to me, stories can bend reality and should bend reality, if that makes sense.
I like that you mentioned surrealism. When I was reviewing this, I wrote down deadpan surrealism
That's
because
it.
there's this surrealist texture, but no one's flinching. No one's kind of reacting to it as if it's wild.
This is
Uh,
it. But
what?
this is the truth of a dream, right? Like, I did a lot of exercises and a lot of research in how dreams work. And
Mm,
very rarely, if you're dreaming about, if you're stuck in a dream with the most, like, you're on planet X or whatever with aliens, whatever, you never question
right.
the reality of it. Like, you're accepting the dream for what it is. And if Mother Couch is set in Ewan's mind or in David's mind, then I have to treat the movie like it. And everybody's welcome to criticize my choice of doing that, but I don't want to explain to an audience that this is all a dream or whatever, because that never happens when you dream. When you
Mm.
actually dream, everything is deadpan and very serious and never questioned. And I think it's a straightforward type of filmmaking that I decided to do, and I'm very proud of. And again, that's sort of Twilight. Like, that's the Twilight Zone episodes. They never question the reality of this. Like,
Right.
they rather question themselves. And I think that's fantastic.
Um, how did you come upon the source material and what kind of liberties did you take with it?
Um, I was I've been a fan of his work, Jerke Würborg's work, for quite a while, and during the pandemic, he released this book, and I read the first 10 pages and I just fell in love with the scenario. And knowing his work, I kind of knew where he was going to take it, I think. But so I let the, like, after 10 pages, after the sort of mother sits down in a furniture store and refuses to
Mm.
leave, I wrote the script. Because
Wow.
I didn't need more. That was a perfect metaphor for what I was going through at the time and a story that I wanted to tell. And then I finished my script, finished his book, sort of stole the ideas I liked from his ending and stuff like that, but not much, to be honest. Like I think the book, it's a vast, it's two different pieces, but with the same symbolism. And and then I called him up. I'm like, yo, would you want to give me the right to write a movie on, on your material? And he just said yes. I don't even think I paid for the options, to be honest. I just like, he just gave me the book. So yeah.
Has he seen the film?
Oh, he loves the film. He's actually in New York. He's coming tomorrow for the opening. He was at TIFF. He's very
Awesome.
proud. Yeah, he's very proud. And he used to be a journalist at the biggest newspaper in Sweden. And we got a 4 out of 5 today on that paper. So that meant a lot to him. Yeah,
That's excellent.
that meant a
Very
lot.
cool.
Yeah. Well,
Um, so if you did adapt some of this, did you base characters on your own experience, or where did the characterizations come from?
that's it. Yeah. And I think, speaking of characterizations, I think one thing I um, wanted to do was to only show, never tell. Um, so,
Mm-hmm.
so sure, all the characters are taken from, they're heightened characters from my real life, for sure. I think in order for me to direct an actor truthfully, I need to know what the fuck I'm talking about. Um, and to me, I think humans are incredibly good at judging by sights. And so I knew I didn't want to, as much as I could, I stayed away from the explanatory
Yeah.
characterization you usually see in movies. Instead, for example, like when we introduce let's take the sister, for example, Linda, Lara Flynn Boyle. All I need is really a wide shot of her coming out of the car. I need to see the car and her getting into a close-up. That's really all I need for, I think, the audience to understand that this woman been through a lot, you you don't necessarily need like a scene where David and Griffith is talking about her being an alcoholic or her being like, I don't think the audience necessarily, or a smart audience doesn't need those things. So, because we don't talk like that. If a sober alcoholic shows up at my sister's wedding, it's not like I'm going to be in the corner. I'm like, oh my God. Like, we just accept it, but we all know. Right. And I think that's a very human trait that I like.
Yeah, she shows up sort of looking exasperated and done with this shit already. So you kind of
Yeah,
put that in there, like you add in
exactly.
that backstory as an audience.
Yeah. She just
Um,
wants to move on. Call 911 or whatever.
I know.
His corpse,
It's a
like,
solution to everything, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
What about the location? I mean, the furniture store itself is sort of a character in the film.
100%, and it moves, right? Like it's an everlasting sort of change. And I think the theatrical aspect of the furniture store is very beautiful,
Yeah.
and it says a lot. So what I did was we scouted, I don't know, probably up to 100 different furniture stores in North Carolina, and I couldn't find the one because it didn't allow me to change things easily. So we
Mm.
decided to build it, but what we did was we found. You remember when David and Griff they go home and get the pills for mother, or they
Yeah.
think they're looking for pills, and so that is a real location. So we basically did a replica of that location on a stage set in a furniture store. So if you watch it again, which I encourage you to do, I think you'll notice it's the same wallpaper, it's the same type, it's the same furniture, it's the same thing, everything is the same. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's a complete replica. And the kitchen is a complete replica. Actually, the photo magnets or the magnets on the fridge is exactly the way it is in when they're home picking up the pills, sort of to merge the places. Again, demanding the audience to realize we're in someone else's mind, if you want.
Gotcha. I saw in another interview that you sort of wrote down your dream cast and you got virtually everybody.
Yeah.
Why did you think these characters would fit these roles?
Um, well, I started with Ewan because I loved his subtlety of being the ordinary man but standing out. You like I was I think Mike Mills did a fantastic job in Beginners, just
Yeah.
finding love in this regular guy, and you can make a whole movie with this just regular guy, because it's hard to find normal look. I mean, this is a compliment to you, and actually, like, they're all characters, like they're all very sort of type characters, and I think Ewan is very unique in that way. Also, he's an excellent actor, right? So, but when I had Ewan, I knew I needed to paint the picture around Ewan in order to make his character really strong. So I just extended a bunch of favorite actors, like Reese Ifans, when he did Spike in Notting Hill. I'm like, all right, how would Spike, how, if I take that character 30 years later, what would happen? You know, I could almost
Oh,
name
excellent.
with Spike, right? And same with Laura. I was a big fan of what Laura did with Todd in Happiness. And I just like, what would that character be again 20 years later? What happened to that woman who dreams of being raped? You know, like, that is a fascinating character. So I just stole all these things. And of course, Ellen Burstyn scared me to death twice in my life, you know. So she's the scariest actor I've ever experienced. So that was a given.
I got sort of Jimmy Stewart straight man vibes from Ewan.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's it, right? Like, exactly. That's really good. Uh, we saw it's interesting, in the 90s, early 2000, those characters were more normal on screen. Like they had like, yeah, it was more common to see that type of character. Also, I think it's about getting to know someone without any fuss. If I made
Mm.
David, the character of David, too much in any way, I think this movie would actually be excruciatingly hard to watch. If I made him as normal as I could and grounded, and you could empathize with him, and that was very important, obviously.
What about the Bella character? To me, she seems sort of like a guide through the whole thing. What does she represent?
I mean, to me, she's an angel, and also it's
Yeah.
interesting, right? So, I mean, I literally dress her as an angel, and Taylor actually said this to me. One of the reasons I gave her the part was when we first met. I met a slew of actors for that part because it's a fun part to play. I'm not surprised the entire spectrum of that kind of Hollywood wanted to do that part. But when I met Taylor, I didn't audition her or anything. But the first thing she says to me, she's like, "You don't have to show it, but can I have two scars on my back throughout the whole shoot?" And I'm like, "Two scars?" She's
Wow.
like, "Oh, because they clipped my wings, right? Like, I'm
I
an
love it.
angel." I'm like, "All right, that's great. You got the part. You totally get it, you know." And
Yeah.
that's a rare intelligent, like, that's very intelligent. That's a very, very intelligent actor asking for something like that. And I think it would have been too much to show in the film, because I don't think, maybe I don't need to, as a director, I don't need to tell the audience necessarily that she is an angel. I mean, if they're reading this now, they will get it, and maybe they will see the movie in a different way and maybe hate it or maybe love it more. But hopefully what Mother Couch is this a ride where when the curtains roll down, it lingers with you, and you start thinking about these characters, and what you experienced. And it's true, like what you said, she's a guide, she's a guiding, she's a force. She can be anything you want to sort of put on the guide. But yeah,
Yeah,
um,
I love that she keeps saying, "You're doing a good job. You're doing a great job." You
yeah,
know.
she's encouraging him to keep fighting, to realize that it's okay not to forgive your mother, and it's okay to let go, because arguably, I think she knows that. I mean, she even tells him, "I've seen worse."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of straight up. She's like, I mean, you're doing good, but I've seen worse. There's worse mothers out there, this is okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, what about some of the comic relief elements? I think it's really interesting to have this sort of heavy surreal film, but then you have people like Reese that are very silly, and even F. Murray Abraham looks like he's having so much fun
yeah.
playing these two different characters.
I mean, Josh, it's interesting. One of the references was The Shining, and
Yeah.
and because it's sort of, I think it's kind of similar in structure and tone, but what Shining lacks, I mean, you can argue Jack is hilarious from time to time in The Shining, but I suppose that's not really the point Kubrick wanted to make. What I think is important, in order to feel something, you need to a tragedy without comedy is not a tragedy, right? Like you need to laugh in order to cry. And I was very aware of this. Like I wouldn't be surprised if my next movie is more to the eerie side and only like a more specific tone. Um, but one thing I was really aware of was I need people to laugh in order to cry.
Mm,
So comic relief, we all need relief, right? And I mean, it's impossible also to have Reese do anything without laughing. He's like, I mean, he's the most hilarious person I've ever met. So just can't kind of
yeah.
came naturally.
Yeah, I get that. To me, the whole movie was sort of about processing grief and letting go. What other themes should people be taking away from this?
And I think you're spot on. That is it. Like I was dealing with grief when I wrote the film, and for whoever gone through grief, like you don't even like necessarily have gone through it personally, but you just have to know a little bit of how grief works. Then I would say it's the most real depiction of grief that there is. But if you're unfamiliar with how grief is, or how grief feels, then I think the film is more maybe a metaphor for the mundane setting in our lives. Like we maybe sit through life, and a couch is a symbol for where we talk with our parents,
Mm,
and stuff like that. But I think more so it is about moving on, and it's okay not to forgive. It's okay not to love. It's okay. All these things are fine. You just have to move on. But that doesn't make it a happy ending. I mean, the ending for me is reunion. So sure, the mother pushed them as far apart throughout the whole life as she could in order for her to save David, right? But what she didn't know is that they actually like each other. They want to be together.
yeah.
So sure, it's a happy ending, but they still have the heavy couch to lift up from the
Mm.
lake at the very end. And that is true. That is true when someone passes. Like you have to deal with. It's not like, all right, that was a great funeral. See you. Like you still have to like.
See you at the next one.
Yeah, like see you at the next one. All right, I hope you. No, it's like it's still a heavy fucking couch there. It's the heavy, dirty, shitty thing that you have to deal with, no matter how you look at it, right? And it's a happy ending in terms of they show up in the end, right? They help him. Hopefully, we don't see that, but they're there at least.
They show up. Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about the film opening. Are you focused on that? Are you working on anything next? Do you have anything lined up?
I do work. I've written a couple of scripts since I wrapped the cut last year. Um, I don't know. It's weird. It's hard. I had this Ruben Östlund is one of my both heroes and mentors, and he's been guiding me through this whole thing. And I asked him, I'm like, when do you start? When can you jump on the next thing? He's like, you can't until it's over.
Mm.
But what you could do is talk about it and think about it. So right now I'm talking about it and I think about it. I write very sporadically, but I have a few ideas that I wanna sink my teeth in the fall. Uh, one very ambitious project, which is maybe a little bit too ambitious, and one easier one that I might do first.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I can't wait to see what that is. Anything else you want to say about the film?
No, I think you covered it. You seem like a very intelligent audience member. That's good. I like it. Thank you so much for picking up
Appreciate that. I
on
love
on
the movie.
right stuff. Thank you so much, Josh.
Congrats, and I hope the opening goes well.
Thank you so much, Josh. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.